Hello and Happy New Year! I hope you've had a good start to the year and are also, if necessary, giving yourself the little reminder that it might be midwinter where you are, and if you're not raring to go and full of energy, that's okay. It's January. One of the things that I love to do this time of year is to look back on all of the books that I've read in the last year and to also think about what I might like to read in the year to come. I'm a big book fan. I'm even writing a book myself, so let's talk about books. Today I'm going to share with you 5 of my favourite reads from the last year, so let's get going. The books that I pulled off the shelf to share with you are ones that I think you might find interesting as well if you're interested in the ideas that I share on this channel. How do we become better communicators? How do we better understand each other? And also, what is motivating for all of us? And how can we have a broader understanding, expand our perspective, and be more embracing of difference within our everyday lives? And so the first one that I want to share with you, I read like a full year ago now, but it still sticks with me. This is Feminism Interrupted by Lola Olufemi. This was really interesting, accessible, kind of brief read, and in some ways a starter guide to lots of really important issues around social justice. I really like how she talked about the importance of art and creativity being something that must be accessible to all. I love how she talked about solidarity as a doing rather than as an abstract concept. She also talks about some more specific issues related to the prison system, to trans issues, to sexual violence, all sorts of issues relevant to feminism, but from a more intersectional lens. She is well worth a read. That'd be my first suggestion. Second book that I really enjoyed and read quite recently, and my husband was saying to me so many times, when I hear you talk, Bryony, I just keep thinking you need to read this book, which is Nonviolent Communication, and this is by Marshall B. Rosenberg. Honestly, I think Tom had to nag me for quite a while before I got around to reading it because, like wine, I judge a book by its cover, and I was just not really a fan of the style of the cover. So, but don't let that put you off because there's so many great ideas in here. What I found about this is that nonviolent communication is a concept that's really quite simple, and so there were some ideas from this that I was able to take and immediately apply to all of my interactions, or at least try to apply. Whilst it's a simple concept, I realised that this would take a lifetime to hone and to really develop the ways in which we can interact with others and speak from a place of non-judgmentalism, whilst also being able to speak up for what's important to us and what we need, and to find a way to relate that and balance that with the people that we're communicating with. I think this is relevant for work, for life, for all of our interactions. All right, third suggestion was one that I ordered from the recommendation of a fellow speech and language therapist, and this is Segregation by Experience by Jennifer Keys-Adair and Kiyomi Sanchez-Suzuki Colligrove. And so this book was an absolutely beautiful description of what is possible within education, and maybe particularly within the early years, but probably more broadly than that. What is possible when we don't impose a whole bunch of adult structure and specific time schedules and plans onto children as part of our education? What happens when we as the adults are allowing for and even delighted in the kind of messier, more spontaneous business of learning, allowing lots more extended periods of time for children to follow their curiosity? And the researchers share their project, lots of specific observations about the contrast in classroom management styles. It brought up loads of conversation points that I'm still thinking about and chatting about with friends and colleagues. Go buy this book, highly recommend. Okay, some young adult fiction recommendation. Elle McNichol is a new author for me, a new discovery, and I'm so delighted to have found her because she does a really great job of writing books that are fun and exciting and, you know, something that I'd be happy to share with kids that I think they would genuinely enjoy. whilst also creating characters that are the front and centre and openly neurodivergent, whether they're dyspraxic or dyslexic. And it's really wonderful to have that written by an author herself who identifies as neurodivergent and sharing through her characters what seems like a really real, honest perspective of what it's like to be in the minority, what it's like to be navigating school and life if you feel a little bit different from the kind of norm. And in this one, which I read most recently, there's all sorts of, there's an exciting story in it, but also she's definitely exploring bigger concepts about how do we embrace difference? Do we embrace difference? What happens when we do or don't? And who are the kind of influences and powers within that? I think this would be a really good book club read, or perhaps a read to share with a young adult, and to spark some conversations about embracing difference and owning who we are and finding the confidence to value and appreciate ourselves within a wild world. My final suggestion, favourite book from the year, was Why We Swim by Bonnie Tsui. And this was purely because I love swimming, I'm fascinated by the water, and I really loved the premise of how she explored that underlying why behind getting in the water. I'm so often interested in the why behind a lot of things. In my work working with very young children, I'm often having chats with adults about that real question of, why are they communicating? What is the reason why they might bother, why it might be worth the sometimes extraordinary effort that it is to get your message across? And so perhaps that's something that we could take from this to think about in the year to come. January is often a time for reflection and planning, thinking about your underlying why and what are the things that motivate you? Where do you find your meaning and purpose within your life? Lots of food for thought that I always get from books. I'd love to hear what some of your favourite reads were, or if you have any suggestions for me in the year ahead. I always aim to read more books than last year, so let's get cracking. Here's to a good year full of reading and learning and communicating more openly together. I so appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, and until next time, I'll see you around.